Being concerned with oneself or one's own prestige or one's own happiness is self-defeating.
Welcome to the podcast. My name is Daniel Schonbuch, licensed psychotherapist and author of a new book on Viktor Frankl called Viktor Frankl and the Psychology of the Soul. On this podcast, we'll be exploring the psychology, life, videos, writings of Viktor Frankl and his book, Man's Search for Meaning. And the first great misconception is that the searching for happiness is the main goal of life.
One other area, though, that you talked earlier about the involvement with each other, for caring for another person, which would give meaning to life, loving another person. We see in our society today that we become, I think, very individualistic, very materialistic.
You have rightly put your finger on the fact that what an individual, a human being needs is what I'm used to calling self-transcendence. That is to say, being concerned with oneself or one's own prestige or one's own happiness is self-defeating. Forgive my contradicting the American Declaration of Independence, in which you find the phrase pursuit of happiness. I deem that pursuit of happiness is a contradiction in terms, because happiness can never be really pursued. Happiness must ensue. Happiness is a side effect. Happiness is a byproduct and must remain a byproduct of meaning fulfillment, of your dedication to a task, a cause greater than yourself, or a person other than yourself. The more you give yourself, the more you forget yourself, in love or in work, for the sake of a cause to serve or a person to love, to the very extent you will become happy precisely by not caring for happiness, precisely by overlooking and forgetting whether you are happy or not.
How true that is. I mean, as a therapist, I can see all the time with my clients that there's a real danger in psychotherapy, in that paradoxically, the more you focus on yourself, the less you're going to feel happy. And that's what Viktor Frankl's really saying. I mean, what I try to do as a therapist is I try to help people find things that are beyond themselves, like finding someone to love or experiencing something meaningful in their lives. A meaningful task is what I believe is really important. Unfortunately, a lot of psychotherapy today, from Sigmund Freud until today, more focus on the self. We want to help people really get beyond themselves. I've witnessed situations where someone's been depressed for years and they came to me for psychotherapy, and I listened to their childhood story, I listened to their pain and their problems they're having internally, and then I gently started to focus on fulfilling a task, doing something different, whether they want to change their job, find a new relationship, learn an instrument, go on a trip, be kind to somebody. These are very, very important things. The people that are focused on helping others usually are often quite happy inside. Those who are focused on themselves, however, find life to be quite difficult. The second misconception is that happiness can only be found by focusing on yourself.
Only that type of people are so intent on themselves and so eager to contemplate and to observe themselves, to actualize themselves, to interpret themselves, who in the first place had missed a mission in their life, who had not found a meaning outward of them, or a human being other than themselves. This is self-transcendence. Not being primarily concerned with oneself, but something other than oneself, or still better, someone other than oneself. Man becomes himself. Man is actualizing his self. Man is human precisely to the extent to which he is not concerned with himself or anything with himself, but living out his self-transcendence.
And this is what I say is just so true about so many people today. And unfortunately, we're living in a time of what I'd call hyper self-awareness or hyper self-gratification. There's a big problem with that. People are seeking out in life to experience themselves more intensely. And that might not mean that they connect to other people in this world or do something new and exciting beyond themselves. So this hyper self-evaluation, hyper self-reflection is really quite a problem psychologically. Unfortunately, a lot of therapists will point their clients to speak more about themselves. Now, don't get me wrong. I really think there's a role to play, and I listen to my clients speak about their pain, their emotions, their internal experiences, their perceptions of reality. But at a certain point, Viktor Frankl's psychology, called logotherapy, is very important to utilize with clients. We have to shift our clients beyond themselves at a certain point in therapy, help them discover new possibilities, new meanings in their lives. And that's where people really start making the change that they want to make, and they start feeling a lot better as well. And the third misconception is that happiness cannot be found in all circumstances.
The ultimate freedom is always and remains always reserved to ourselves. That is the freedom to take a stand to whatever conditions might confront us. How we react to the unchangeable conditions is up to ourselves. In other words, if we cannot change a situation, we have always the last freedom to change our attitude to that situation.
Dr. Frankl, give me an example of meaning that can be taken out of a situation of despair.
I once received a letter from a young Texan student who told me his own story. At the age of 17 years, he had an accident when indulging to his diving sport. And from that time on, he was paralyzed from the neck down. And he wrote to me, "I broke my neck, but it did not break me. I am at present helpless, and this handicap will remain with myself apparently forever. But I have not given up my studies. I went, because of my own helplessness, to help other people. I want to become a psychologist, to help others. And I'm sure," he wrote to me, "that my suffering will add an essential contribution to my ability to understand others and to help other people." This man, three years later, was invited by me to deliver a lecture, to read a paper at the 3rd World Congress of Logotherapy taking place at the University of Regensburg in West Germany. He was brought in and with his wheelchair by a plane from Texas to West Germany and delivered a lecture under the title, "The Defiant Power of the Human Spirit." The last sentence read, "I know that this is true because that man was me."
If you'd like to find out more information about how to integrate the psychology and the philosophy of Viktor Frankl and logotherapy in your life, check out my new book, Viktor Frankl and the Psychology of the Soul, available on Amazon.com. I'll leave a link below. And if you have any questions or comments about Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, please leave a comment below and I'll be happy to answer it in future videos.